All right, let's keep rolling down this breakfast train and make some hash browns. What I love about this recipe is that it's cheap. Many a times when I was younger and dead broke, this would be my dinner because you can make it for less than $1. You throw an egg on here, delicious dinner. Well, regardless of whenever you choose to eat this, let's go from a potato to a hash brown. So this is technically my version, which may not be for everybody. It's a very simplified version compared to other recipes you may see making hash browns, and that's because I'm gonna skip a few steps that people usually advise. For this reason, it may be kind of controversial. However, I think the end product is delicious and has a nice texture, which is what we're going for when we cook. But that being said, you do you. So first things first, we need some potatoes. Now for this recipe, we want russet potatoes, or basically a starchy baking style potato, not something like a waxy Yukon style potato. Now I found that about 2 potatoes basically makes 1 hash brown, so this makes it kind of nice math-wise. Start by peeling the potatoes, exposing the innards. Now I really hate peeling potatoes, but definitely this German style peeler is good for peeling potatoes. So if you don't have this style of peeler, I recommend getting one for peeling potatoes. Now once you have your potatoes peeled, put them into a bowl of cold water. This helps them prevent from going brown. Now once we have all of the potatoes peeled, we're good to move on to the next step, which is to grate them. Now for this type of thing, I like to use a box grater, specifically the coarse side of the box grater. Now simply we want to just run the potato lengthwise down the side of the grater, really trying to get as long of shreds as we can. Now in the paraphrased words of Chef John, no fingertip is worth that last little bit. So really don't stress about getting that last little bit of potato. Trust me, I've made that mistake about 8 times in my life and I've never thought that it was a good idea. Okay, once we have the potato shreds we gathered from the grater, just gather them up and put them into a bowl of cold water. Again, the idea here is that we want to reduce any browning. Additionally, this is gonna help leach off some of the starch that's from the potato. All right, once we've grated all of the potatoes, our bowl should look like this. Now at this step, I like to dump out the water and rinse off the shreds with clean water. I usually do this about 2 to 3 times or until the water comes out more or less clear and should look something like this. Once it's clear, we're in the clear, and now we can go ahead and start straining this. Now to do this, I just sieve it. Put the potatoes into a strainer and give it a good press to squeeze out some water. However, that's pretty much all we're gonna be doing for draining. Now I know a few people out there right now are about to have an aneurysm, but hear me out. So traditionally at this point, you would get a clean kitchen towel and really try to press out all the water that you can. I've always been told that it's important to drain out as much water from the potatoes as you can because moisture is really the enemy of crispy browning. And this is true. However, this step using a towel is kind of messy and it's a little bit annoying. And if you're okay with a slightly less crispy hash brown, you can skip this step and just, try the sieve method. All right, next thing we need to do is start frying these hash browns. Now for that, I'm gonna be recommending that you use a cast iron skillet. A stainless steel skillet will also work for this. I just don't really recommend non-stick for something like this. Go ahead and get the pan hot, and once it comes to temperature, we can add a small amount of oil. We don't wanna use a lot here, just enough to lightly coat the pan. Once the pan is hot, add the potato shreds in to a depth of about 1 centimeter or about ½ an inch. Make sure that it's spread out evenly, and then we're just gonna add some salt to the top of this. Now the next step is to literally just let this cook and not to touch it or do anything at all to it. Now one thing is that we really want to make sure the heat isn't too hot here. We aren't trying to sear a steak or anything like that. What we want to do is we want to go low and slow. And this will allow the moisture from the potato to, hit the pan and then evaporate. And in that point it will turn into steam, and then the steam will cook the potato above. If it's too hot, the bottom will blacken far before even the center or the middle bit gets cooked. Now, if you've never cooked a hash brown like this, you may be surprised at how long it takes. Also, maybe feel a little bit uncomfortable with leaving it alone. Now, it roughly takes about 20 minutes to slowly cook like this on the first side, and it seems crazy to really just leave this alone, but that's what we gotta do here. Now, if you're making a big batch, I recommend using multiple burners so that you can do multiple hash browns all at once, but I got one burner for filming, so it took me a while because I had to make them one at a time. At about 15 to 20 minutes later, you can begin to start checking on the hash brown. And what you want to do is just very slowly and carefully check under the bottom of the hash brown. A feat that can be pretty difficult, but you can definitely do it. What you should be looking for is that the bottom kind of comes off the pan easily, and it should be pretty stiff so that when you move the corner of the layer, more of it comes with you. It shouldn't feel like it's flopping apart. If that's the case, continue to loosen up the edges until the whole hash brown is disconnected from the pan. Once that's the case, go ahead and flip it. Now, I suck at flipping. I always have, and I probably always will, but hopefully you have better luck than I do. Once it's flipped, we're just gonna let this cook on this side for about 10 to 15 more minutes, and it should go a little faster this time. Now, you can see despite me not really squeezing out that water, the top did still get pretty crispy. You can also see a gradient of color due to the fact that my burner isn't the best, but if you're using a proper stove top, you should get a more uniform color on your hash brown. Once that baby's been cooking for about 10 minutes, run the same test to see if it detaches from the pan easily, and if so, it's ready to serve. Grab a plate, put it over the top of the pan, and just flip it onto the plate. All right, now let's take a look at this bad boy. It should be cohesive and crispy, and this is exactly how I love my hash browns. Well, once I add a little bit of Tabasco sauce to it. It does take a while, but this is a really simple recipe, and if you have some time and little money, this is definitely a recipe to try. As I said, you just throw a cracked egg on there, maybe you can find some sour cream somewhere. There's a lot of things you can do to really stretch this, hash brown out further. And if you just want something good for breakfast, this is a really good thing to make as well. It just does take some time, so it may be kind of inconvenient if you have a bunch of people that you need to cook for, but if you're in a pinch, this is a great recipe to turn to. All right, I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please consider subscribing, and I'll see you all soon with another video. All right, bye.